Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Now we break for the coffee. I know we are 15 minutes late, so if we could come back by 4:05, that would be really good. We'll finish by 5 as scheduled, and then we will have a couple of hours before the end of day one and GIFA, Global Islamic Finance Award ceremony, which is going to take place at 7 o'clock. Thank you very much. This is going to end for about an hour. I know that you have been here since morning. It's a long day, but we have very interesting topic, structuring of Islamic financial products. And this is the topic of this last session of the day. Technically, this is not the last session, I should say. The most interesting session would be the dinner time Global Islamic Finance Award ceremony, which is taking place. I will give you the exact venue within the hotel, but this will be starting at 7 to 9. So I would request all of you who have got the invitations to attend that ceremony. We are going to give about 20 awards to individuals and institutions which have been involved in Islamic finance in a leadership role. So that would be a very interesting ceremony at the end of the day. But for intellectual purposes, this is the last session on structuring of Islamic financial products. I have with me 6 panelists, and they come from very different backgrounds. Oliver Aga, he has been part of some previous sessions, I think one session in the morning. He comes from a law background, managing partner of Aga and Company, which is a Dubai-based Islamic law firm. Then we have Muhammad Virani. Muhammad is head of Islamic finance with SocGen, Society Generale. And he has been personally involved in structuring a number of innovative Islamic investment products. So his deep understanding of structuring issues related with Islamic investment products, I think this would be a very good contribution to the panel. Then we have Qasim Dokrat. He takes care of the Dubai office of DDCAP. DDCAP previously Donna Day, although you wouldn't like to refer to the previous name because we're trying to develop this new brand, DDCAP. DDCAP has been involved in Islamic finance for more than 25 years, I should say. The initial earlier solutions for Islamic liquidity management were executed by DDCAP, and since then, I should say, the Islamic practice or Islamic finance team at DDCAP has been involved in a number of transactions coming from retail banking, liquidity management, treasury operations, investment banking, and so on, and of course in fund management as well. We have Umar Clare coming from Canada. He is president and CEO of Financials Group. He has been involved. I have been seeing you, Umar, for last almost 10 years, right? Very actively involved in Islamic finance, not only in North America, but in this part of the world, as well as he is involved in different capacities in the Far East as well. So he will, and probably you would share with us your experience of structuring an Islamic prepaid card, which you have launched in Canada, and I believe you have plans to offer that product in Europe and probably elsewhere as well. Muhammad Nadeem Aslam, he is a local guy working for the Bank Muscat as head of Islamic finance. We would ask you questions about what are your plans for product development for your Islamic banking franchise at Bank Muscat. Last but not least, Dr. Samia Swellam. He is probably the most influential Islamic economist of my generation. We call ourselves as the first generation of qualified Islamic economists, and we have our teachers like Dr. Mundar Kahf and others. They are the old generations. But in my generation of Islamic economists, Dr. Sami Aswalam, he is, I should say, probably the most influential and the most intelligent Islamic economist which the Islamic financial services industry and Islamic economics has seen in this time. He is currently associated with IRTI, Islamic Research and Training Institute at Islamic Development Bank. He would be sharing his analytical insight into product development. Although I wasn't there in Malaysia, but he gave, I have heard that you gave a very interesting presentation on the role of Maqasidu Sharia in product development, and I think, okay, this will be something the delegates over here would like to listen to. Given that this is a relatively shorter, and I'll start with a question which is slightly provocative, and that is, many, and probably I will start with you, Muhammad. Many people who have interest or who are involved in Islamic finance, they think that Western financial institutions, investment banks, they have come up with some very innovative Islamic financial products. But from Sharia viewpoint, they are rather aggressive. You try to just go to the extreme, okay, and that's the limit where you go. Although from technical viewpoint, these are Sharia compliant products, but they are based on some very aggressive structures. What do you say about this one? And do you think that this kind of innovation is required in product development in order to expand the frontiers of Islamic financial services industry?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. It's an interesting question. However, from a Western bank perspective, the Western bank deals with a board of scholars who look at the products they are developing. Now, to say whether it's aggressive or not aggressive is not really up to the bank to decide. It's up to the scholar to decide. So we will propose something to the scholar. He will say, actually, Muhammad, this is, you need to change this or change this. And we'll have to listen to him. Then, at the end of the day, the outcome is that the scholars will give an endorsement on the product. And then only we'll be able to market and sell the product. So, turning the question around, we have to look at whether the scholars think they are allowing products which are too aggressive or not. Because the Western banks will try and offer products to its customers according to the demand of the customer. So if the customer wants a 3-year product, which is capital protected, okay, linked to the performance on a basket of Middle Eastern equities, for example. Okay? Now, it's not up to us to determine whether this is Sharia aggressive or Sharia conservative. It's up to the scholar who will ask. But I think there is a gap, in fact, in this question, because if I ask you, because you present some Sharia boards as well, if I take one product, let's say the 3-year capital protected linked to a basket of Middle Eastern equities versus a 5-year product versus a product which is not capital protected, which is more aggressive?
I would not answer because that was a question for you.
So you see my point, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's very difficult to analyze if you ask me whether it's aggressive or not. We don't know the parameters of aggressiveness. But an interesting thing to note is on the Western bank side, one thing that keeps us in check is our reputational risk. Recently, an American bank launched a product, and some people are questioning the product, okay, in the press. This is, a very bad situation for a Western bank to encounter. Okay, so the market will self-regulate the aggressiveness of a product. Okay, in 2006, there were banks, not our bank, who are offering Islamic CDOs. Okay? So from a formal perspective, you could potentially structure something, but then, it's up to the scholars, I think, to have a more macro approach on the product and say, okay, the outcome of this product is this. So is this aggressive or not? Not just only focus on the formality and form of the product, but actually look at the wider macro impact of the product.
Very interesting. Basically, the answer is we don't take a Sharia view. We structure Islamic financial products, and this is up to the Sharia board or Sharia scholars to endorse it.
To guide us.
And of course, guide and endorse it or not. Okay. If the Sharia board says that this is acceptable from Sharia viewpoint, then this is an acceptable product for you as well.
I think if I can just add to this comment, I think until the economic crisis of 2008 and during the bull market, there was more, I think, the spirit was ignored and the letter was observed, so that you had a lot of products being marketed rather aggressively, and they could argue that this is Sharia compliant and so on, and it was. But I think the spirit underlying that, and there might be some, if there's any blame apportioning on both sides, because it was the sign of the times, and since that time, people have become much more cautious. Sharia scholars have, when they've opined recently, they've been much more careful in demanding, is this really what you mean? Because very aggressive marketers and very aggressive institutions have gone to these scholars and literally cajoled them into saying, well, this is what I mean. And then they've given an opinion, and then when it's unraveled, suddenly there's a whole, many scholars are now saying we should, check much more carefully at what's being produced to develop these products.
Right. But basically, when we look at, if we try to classify Islamic products, there are some products which can be termed as Sharia light. Okay. Then we have another category which is Sharia compliant. Then probably the third one, although I personally don't like it, they call it Sharia based products. I'll ask Dr. Samir Swellam, what is his view on this classification? Shouldn't it be the case that when you are structuring a product, okay, that structure should be either Sharia compliant or not Sharia compliant? Why do we have these 3 or 4 categories on the side of Sharia? And of course, the fourth category, Sharia compliant, Sharia light, Sharia compliant, Sharia based, and the fourth category could be Sharia repugnant. Okay. Sharia repugnant, which is on the other side of the line. When you refer to taking into account Sharia, maqasidu Sharia in structuring Islamic financial products, what do you mean by that? Does it mean that some higher objectives of Sharia must be taken into account when you are trying to structure some new products for a micro institution like a bank? Or what do you mean by that, basically?
The reason we differentiate between Sharia compliant and Sharia based or compatible with the objectives of Sharia, the Prophet ﷺ said, "Naha Nabi Sallam bay'an wa salaf." The Prophet ﷺ prohibited combining a sale with a loan. Why would the Prophet ﷺ prohibit this combination? Because each of the elements is legitimate on its own. A loan in this hadith obviously is an interest-free loan, and the sale is a legitimate sale. So each component is legitimate. But then combining these two could result in an interest-based loan, whereby the interest is implicit into the sale contract. Again, the Prophet ﷺ prohibited 2 sales in one. Why? If each sale is legitimate, what's wrong with combining 2 legitimate things? The answer is that it is true each on its own is legitimate, but then combining these 2 in a certain manner could result in violating the reason why riba itself was prohibited, or why gharar and maisir was prohibited. And this is something, by the way, at the frontier of science. This complexity science says that the whole is greater than the sum. When you put several elements together and these elements interact with each other, they would result in an outcome that cannot be achieved by either of these elements separately. So that's the heart of science, is simply applied, it's logical reasoning. There is nothing strange in that. It's perfectly intuitive, perfectly logical. Why Aina is prohibited? Even though Aina by the way, even the Shafi'i school that would allow for Aina, they would never allow combining the two transactions explicitly into the contract. If it is conditioned in the contract, unanimously scholars would prohibit Aina. But some scholars who would allow for Aina, they allow it on the condition that each is separate. All parameters of the contract are observed. Transfer of ownership, liability, possession, and each and every technicality is there. Yet the majority of scholars would not allow for that. Why? Because they look at the result of this combination. If this result is riba, basically, so we are back to square number one. This is not the right creativity that we are looking for. And this goes back to what is the message of Islamic finance? What's the function of Islamic finance? If it is simply to replicate riba-based instrument, we are not doing anything. We are adding to the cost without adding value. But the heart of Islamic finance is to integrate financing with value creation, with wealth creation. And that's the challenge, by the way. I mean, if you look at it, conventional finance is not really creative. It's money for money. Where is the challenge? There is no challenge giving money and getting more money. There is no challenge in that. But the challenge is, if I want to invest this money and get back more, while at the same time creating value to the society. That's the challenge. So I think Islamic finance is truly creative and innovative by nature, because there is always a challenge how to integrate finance with value creation.
That's very good. I really like this analysis. A related issue would be structuring Islamic financial products which are priced with reference to an interest-based mechanism like LIBOR, SIBOR, CLIBOR, and so on. And many Muslims, they are not very happy with this kind of pricing of Islamic financial products. And hence they have doubts. They say, well, yes, you are saying that this is Sharia compliant, but it looks like a conventional product because its financial behavior is like a conventional product. Oliver, as a lawyer, what kind of differences you would like to highlight in structuring an Islamic financial product, although in its end result financially this might look very similar to a conventional product?
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I think one of the hadith that came to mind when the panelists were speaking was the one, I think it's attributed to Abu Huraira, and it says something like this: the payer of usury, the taker of usury, the scribe who writes the contract, and the two witnesses to the contract are all condemned to hell. It's a pretty serious, sort of, but a very clear message that we each have a sense of responsibility in being a party to a contract that in substance represents wine, not grape juice. And I think that's an interesting point, because I think we have to, as independent, those of us who are Muslim, look at it and say, am I comfortable? Does this make sense to me that this is okay or not? I think in the actual structuring of the product, there does need to be very careful consideration of substance, not form. So if I'm using a interest rate mechanism for pricing a product that in my view is genuinely compliant in all material respects, the mere pricing of the product based on any sort of methodology would not be a particular issue from my perspective. But what's more of an issue is at the end of the day, does the product represent a debt-based obligation? for example, Mohammed was sharing about the capital protected. I think it's very difficult to argue that capital protected products are Sharia compliant. I'm just making a very blanket statement. Because the whole idea behind Islamic finance and Islamic banking is that, the provider of the funds inherently risks the capital. Now, of course, when you put the money in a bank, there's a mutual third-party guarantee, which is completely permissible under Sharia, and you have a certain amount of insurance that covers your capital. But the trick from the Islamic perspective is the person who's taking the capital cannot provide that guarantee. Now, that doesn't mean you cannot have protections that you can create in a proper way that provide some comfort and go some part of the way. But an absolute capital protection, that I think becomes problematic.
Right. Let me put a very blunt kind of question. Is it really desirable for Islamic banks and financial institutions to offer all kind of financial products? For example, is it necessary, this is a requirement that Islamic banks should have Islamic credit cards? When you say Islamic credit cards, okay, you're basically pricing credit. Okay. So this kind of, many people would say that this kind of products are not consistent with Sharia, Islamic Sharia. Your experience, Omar, because you have structured a prepaid card, okay, which is, although you can call it a credit card, but this is actually a prepaid card. When you were structuring that card, did you consider coming up with a card which is actually an Islamic credit card?
Yep. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. The prepaid MasterCard that we launched, which was called the iFreedom MasterCard, it was a product that we launched after we launched a few other products. And it was because of those other products we launched the MasterCard. We had a home financing product that we launched close to 10 years ago, and that was fulfilling the needs of the Muslim community on the financing side. And then we launched an investment product fulfilling the needs on the investment side. The issue that arose was in dealing with the Canadian regulators, they wanted more of a demand of the market. So we wanted to capture the market size to them to show that Islamic finance, there is a true demand within Canada. In Canada, we have roughly 1.3 million Muslims, but the amount of clients that we had on our mortgages and investments weren't sizable enough for them to say that there's a need for a dedicated Islamic bank within Canada. So looking at the various product lines, we isolated a credit card or a MasterCard being an easier product to reach out to the masses. Also, the benefit was that within Muslims in the West, we have larger families. The median age for the Muslim society in Canada was only 26. So the products that we were selling to the community in terms of financing and investment, it was only targeting the older generation. And the other challenge is a lot of them already set in their ways. So looking at the youth market, we thought that the iFreedom MasterCard, since there's no credit involved, it's open for anyone. Anyone above age 13 can apply for it. So with that card, which was the main reason why we launched the card, was to tap into a larger audience. And from our view, it's easier to gather 40 to 50,000 clients on a MasterCard than it is on other financial products. And the cost to implement it is very low. In addition to that, we came out with some solutions that can overcome student loans, where the government charges interest, where we could incorporate an administration fee to come around the challenges for that.
Right, very good. Muhammad Nadeem.
Just as a note, actually this should not be the case that Islamic banks are always copy-paste commercial products. But if you look at reality, there is a customer need that always asks for the product that is available in commercial banking. There are regulators actually who have a framework, legal framework that only support commercial kind of products. Then itself bankers are not much comfortable. Sharia scholars are not pushing towards that. So these are all our dynamics that are pushing Islamic banking industry towards the same line or same route that commercial banking has followed. Now coming to your first question that you were talking about, that why we are always linking LIBOR. Actually LIBOR is the actual problem. I never could understand that why we link LIBOR, although when we link a product pricing with the LIBOR, it means we are creating a gharar in the pricing of the product. And when we create gharar, so it's a major element, and it makes the product against Sharia. But that's the problem where actually we need to be innovative, we need to be creative. And we need to look for benchmarks, like if we are developing a product for real estate, we should create a benchmark or index that links the activity towards the actual economic activity of that land. I mean that the index should go up or down as per the real estate prices, or as per the real estate rents, or as per the demand or supply of the properties. So we need to shift from this LIBOR or this such kind of a conventional index towards the index that actually represent economic activity. So this is the actual challenge right now for all Islamic bankers, that I think.
Right. Okay. So this was our first round of questions. If you have any questions, could you please raise your hand? So I can see this one hand over here. Oh, I love it. You know, we have one question coming from ladies as well. So if someone could kindly give the mic to this gentleman over there, that would be good.
Mohammed Rushdi from UAE. It's a very short question with Dr. Sami and other people talk about it. Is our problem that we are in Islamic banking still thinking conventional banking, and Islamic banking are running by bankers, which is coming to replicate till date what's happening only in conventional banking, although Islamic banking should be about trading, about services, about everything. Why we are still thinking about banking? Islamic banking, as per Quran and Sunnah and all, it is trading, it is bay', shira, it's business. 12, 13 contracts we have, but still we are thinking the same way like conventional banking. And even the language we use is a banking language. Can we get out of the bank or out of the books, think out of this kind of really banking, and go back to the roots of Islamic banking? Thank you.
So this is basically more like a comment that we in Islamic banks, we haven't shifted the paradigm. Although we claim to have a trading based activity when we do murabaha, when we do salam, we do other